All right, welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Dollar Bin Digging. This is the video and article that I do for comicbookinvest.com, where I talk about those little hidden books that you might find when you check those cheap boxes, those dollar bins, those discount, boxes, wherever you do your discount shopping, the cheap books that you go digging for, whether it be a flea market, your LCS, Goodwills, wherever you find your cheap comic books. These are the kind of things I think you should be looking for based off of this week's most recent news and like announcements, rumors, and speculation. So these are the things that I'm looking for when I'm hitting the bins. So these are things I recommend you should keep an eye out for too, just in case you come across them. Now, hopefully you enjoyed this series as well as everything else here on the channel. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please like, subscribe, hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Continue to tell your friends so we can keep growing the channel. And yeah, if you want to see what books I have in store for you this week, just hang on for a few seconds after the intro, and I will be right back. Okay, I'm just keeping this format going because I'm enjoying doing it this way. So I am looking at those books, mostly Marvel and DC. This week I do have an image book for you too, but I didn't decide to change the graphic. But these are going to be some things based off of the rumors, the speculations, first appearances, announcements, things like that we have coming up, just based off of things from this past week that I think you should be keeping an eye out for when you hit those boxes. So the first thing being, we're going to jump and start in with Marvel, as I usually do, because I know I do Marvel heavy because that's most of the books that I buy. But this is what I'm looking at this week, based off of this little tidbit of news that apparently there's a deep cut character that got teased to be showing up in the Marvels. Just like a small actor who kind of announced what his role was going to be, who has links to Silver Surfer. This is a bit of a stretch to say that just because this Kree scientist character it's his, first showed up in the Silver Surfer comic is going to show up, means that Silver Surfer is going to show up. That's a real stretch to me, but it's still something interesting. And the character I'm talking about, I can't even think of his name. It's like Ponda Boba Bonda. Anyway, we'll get to the character in a second, but the character first appeared in Silver Surfer #8, the original 1980s, not original, the 1987 run. This is volume 2. I call it original because this was the run that was my run of Silver Surfer, so it's my original run, my original Silver Surfer run, not the one from the 70s, which I am still working on completing, actually. But that all said, this particular issue features the first appearance of this Kree scientist who's he's doing some work on Silver Surfer's board in this issue, and that is the character that got announced as being, I guess, in this movie. Pop Ton. See, again, I was messing, stumbling through what his name is, but I think is this scientist here with the with the little mustache, the little iron sides kind of look. Master Pop Ton, if I'm saying it right. Again, Kree scientist. This is the only issue he appears in. So this is not a major character in any way. This is probably just be a minor little role, but the actor had posted that's who he was playing and then had to take it down. So, I mean, take that for what it is. Does that mean we're getting Silver Surfer? I don't think so. I think it's just a way to connect the Kree again, because, I mean, how many Kree scientists and Kree characters do they really have to work with? So I think they just threw one that had a minor appearance in just for kind of like a fun little connection tag to the actual Marvel universe in that Marvel's movie because, Brie Larson, Captain Marvel, has some significant ties to the Kree. So that's why I think we're getting the Kree scientist, not because it means Silver Surfer is coming. That's my personal feeling. Yeah, I could be wrong, but it would be a really weird way to introduce Silver Surfer to the Marvel Universe through this. That all said, this book surprisingly has started to sell, the past week or so based off of this news with some copies selling for $15, $8. This is a really cheap book. I mean, a lot of this run is pretty cheap. So just keep that in mind. You can find these in the boxes because I think it was printed pretty well. I think Silver Surfer was pretty popular there for a stretch. And you can see even copies right now are still kind of asking that same kind of $8 to $15 range, which is surprising. I would not recommend buying it at any of these prices for this tiny little minor appearance. But if you find it for $1, absolutely, why not? You could do worse for $1, but I would not be paying like $15 for this thing. That's just silly to me. But it's still a fun thing to go and dig for and look for because, like I said, I still occasionally see Silver Surfer books in the boxes, but I can't double buy and triple buy everything. I will only get those ones I just can't leave behind. Some of those Drax and Thanos type appearances when I come across them. Galactus and everything. Like, the characters I really enjoy. I will still keep buying them every time I find them, but this is not going to be one of those times. So the Kree scientist Popton or whatever his name is, he can stay in the box if it's more than a buck or two. Is all I'm saying. Now, moving on from there, we did get some teases here from the comic books. If I'm going to spoil anything, I apologize if you didn't read your books yet this week, but some of the things are going to come from some of the comics that were recently released over the last week or so. So if you haven't read Devil's Reign #6, then, I'm not going to spoil the whole thing. I'm just kind of getting to the point that they kind of set up here, as this article was inferring, that they're setting up Daredevil versus Punisher to face off because, the Punisher now is like master of the hand. And that looks like that's the direction Daredevil's going following the end of Marvel's Devil's Reign event here in this issue 6, the final issue with that face off with Kingpin. Again, read it, check it out. You can see how that all plays out. But at the very end, you see Elektra and Daredevil kind of talking it over, like, what are we going to do now? Elektra wanted him to join her, so he's saying, I'm down. Like, they're going to join forces, go to take down the hand, and go save the world is their plan. So that's what we are getting going forward. So we'll see how this all plays out, but we are going to get some more Daredevil versus Punisher action coming our way. Now, the first one being out there, I think that we can point to is this Daredevil 183 from the Frank Miller run. Classic cover. This is going to be a tough find. I'm pretty sure you're not going to find these in a dollar bin any longer. I mean, maybe you do. You might find a beat copy, but I'm not saying this is the one you're going to find. But I feel like I still needed to tell you about it anyway, because this is still a great little run. I think it was a 2-issue event or crossover with 183 and 184 with Daredevil and Punisher. And this being the first issue, again, with that classic kind of cover. I'm sure you've seen it before. And this thing, even though it's well known, it's still not all that expensive. As you can see, copies have sold online for $6, but it can go up like $20 or more, depending on condition. It's really condition dependent. So you might find, like I said, a beat copy for cheap. But this is still a book that is pretty well known, so you're probably not going to find it in the dollar bin. But as I said, I didn't want to not mention it, so we'll just quickly cover it. And you see there's copies that are $9, $13, $25 out there. Again, depending on the condition, there's a little bit of a range there on how much this one goes for. But if you like the idea of that crossover of Punisher and Daredevil, another good one comes, a couple decades later in the Marvel Knights run when Garth Ennis was writing the book. In Punisher #3, you get Daredevil showing up, and you get this pretty cool moment where Punisher gets the upper hand on Daredevil there, and Daredevil wakes up with a gun in his hand as the Punisher is basically telling him, I'm going to go kill this criminal unless you shoot me and kill me first. So you decide. It's more than just your normal, like, smash and grab fight between these two characters. This is an interesting little face-off that they have here with their dueling identities and like their thought process, their methods, how they look at the world and what they how they think they fit in this world. And he puts Daredevil in this position to basically become more like him, because after this, Daredevil does pull the trigger, but I think the firing pin was removed, so nothing actually happened. But it still proved Frank's point to Matt Murdock that, look, everybody can get pushed to this point, and he's just willing to do what others may not be willing to do. It's a really cool issue. Go check it out if you don't believe me. But I'll tell you, this one is still one you could probably find cheap. This Punisher run, it's got these cool Tim Bradstreet covers. Issue 1 got a little expensive there for a little bit when the Punisher series hit Netflix, but I think you can still find some of these hidden out there in those boxes for relatively cheap prices. Even online, you can see, look, $3, $9. It's not super duper expensive. Even if you want to go buy one outright online, you can see $3.90 again to $9. That's kind of the range. It's less than $5, this thing, and a good chance you might find it in a cheap box somewhere. So that's my recommendation for a Daredevil Punisher kind of crossover. And they've crossed paths a few times over the years, but this is just one I just randomly want to pick because I do dig this cover, this Bradstreet cover. And like I said, it was a fun little read, and I like that moment, even though I spoiled it. So sorry. That said, we're going to go hop on over to the DC side of things real quick with this next one. Actually, next two, technically. But we are getting a new Justice League of a sort. With the Justice League, as I've talked about a few times now on this show with some of these options and some of these picks, the Justice League is basically going to die this month. So in the next couple of weeks, I don't know what, might be the end of the month when the Justice League 75 comes out. Most of the members of the Justice League are going to die in this event. But in this issue here, I forget what the crossover this is, but Amanda Waller's basically getting her own Justice League, like her team of Suicide Squad type players that are where she's putting together her own Justice League, basically. And this, yeah, Amanda Waller here from the DC side of things. So she's going to be controlling her very own Justice League, and her Superman is actually Superboy, or a version of Superboy called Match, who first showed up in Superboy number 32 way back, in the 90s. This is that 90s run of Superboy. I think the only issue people look for is that King Shark appearance, issue 9, but here's another one. So if you find Superboy books and you see that 9's gone, this is another one that you can at least flip through and look for. Issue 32 is the first appearance of this character Match, who at times has looked like a Bizarro. He's kind of even adopted that idea of he's being the Bizarro Superboy, putting on the reverse Connor Kent kind of t-shirt there. But character goes by the name of Match these days. He is a clone, and you can find him first here in Superboy 32, which again is not an expensive book at all. You can see here the only sale that I could find, including this book, was a lot of 4 Superboy comics that was a best offer on less than $6.50. So somebody paid less than $6.50 for all 4 books, one of them being this. So very cheap book. With that, and that's the only sale I could find. And even if you go shopping online, you can see there's copies as cheap as $1.79 up to like $7. There's $5 copies. I saw a bunch of $2 ones, so this is even very, very cheap online. So it's just a cheap option of just a fun little first appearance that you might be able to grab when you're flipping through the boxes. And like I said, sometimes you hit those runs of titles like, what am I going to do? There's a whole run of Superboys here. What am I even looking for? Yeah, you can try to pull out your app and your phone and look on all these lists, but these are just a few options that I can just quickly give you that maybe you remember and check for when you're flipping through the boxes. So outside of the King Shark, look for 32. Yeah, you get a first appearance. Now, the other character that is part of her Justice League is Nocterra, as if I'm saying her name properly. Nocturna, not Terra, Nocturna, who people have been buying her first appearance because of this Batman issue, 363, introducing Nocturna. So this is obviously her first appearance, right? So this is the issue people want. Pretty cool cover. I like the kind of purple magenta kind of vibe tying in with her dark, darker look and this kind of a dark type character. But she is a member of Amanda Waller's like faux Justice League, I guess. Now, this book, again, it's all over the place with some of the prices. It could be cheap, like $10. It can go up, $25, or you can get them at auction. You can see $7 on 7 bids. Depending on, again, on condition. This is a decently old Batman book, so it could be buried in those boxes. I mean, it's from 1983 after all, so we're talking about a book that's almost 40 years old now. So you might find it in those cheap bins, so keep an eye out for it. Copies even online could range as low as $8 or go all the way up to $50. Again, it's just one of those things. There's inconsistent pricing. Who knows what you might find if you're shopping online. All I'm saying is keep an eye out for it in those cheap boxes, because maybe you find one. Maybe it's a little beat up, but at least you can still get yourself a first appearance for very, very cheap. So that's why I'm telling you to look for this book. And I kept mentioning that this is her first appearance, right? Well, it is, but unless you are of the school of thought where a character appears, even in cameo, that is their first, I at least want to give you this other option, which is Detective Comics, was because she showed up technically in the month before. So the month before that Batman came out, in Detective Comics number 529, Nocturna shows up at the end of this issue in shadow, but her name is mentioned, and you can see it here at the top of this page. This other character is handing her this jewel, and he said, "I do it for you, Nocturna." So that is her. There's another page where I think it's just her in shadow in a chair. So you don't really get a good look at the character at all, but that is her. She does kind of appear. So it's just one of those things. If you want to be a completionist, and if this is your thing, this is another book you can keep an eye out for if you want to go find Nocturna. Again, Detective Comics number 529. And this one is also not an expensive book. Copies sell for like $8-9, online. That's the couple sales in February there. So even that's not that recent. And then copies online, you can see it's like $6, $8, $7. Like it's under $10. We'll just broadly say it is under $10, this book. So maybe you find it in a cheap box, maybe you don't. There it is. It's not that big of an appearance or character, but who knows where they might go with this? If all the Justice League characters are gone, who knows how long this Amanda Waller team might run for. I know we're also getting another Justice League with those kind of future state, the newer next generation type characters, the new Batman and new Wonder Woman. We're still going to get them as well. But who knows if we'll see those two teams face off at some point in the near future. So if you want some of the characters involved in something like that, these are cheap ways to go and find them. Just look for them in the cheap boxes before they get a lot of play and a lot of hoopla around them. So I don't know, just the kind of thing I like to do. I just like digging out first appearances for cheap if you could find them. Now, that said, that was us for our DC. I'm going to bounce off of DC again and go back to Marvel really quick. This is going to be another tough one for you to find in the cheap boxes, but I've seen them out there before. It can happen, so just be aware of it. And what I'm talking about now is that famed X-Men writer Ann Nocenti, if I'm saying the name right, is reuniting in writing Longshot again. Basically going to pick up the story about Longshot. I know my buddy Marco is a big Longshot fan. He likes the Mojo verse and all that. But in the X-Men Legends, I think this is X-Men Legends number 3, we're going to start getting back to Longshot. So that's kind of cool, right? Haven't seen Longshot in a while. I always think of that Jim Lee cover on X-Men number 10 from the 90s X-Men run as when I think of Longshot. That's like the first thing that pops in my head because I just remember that cover so well. But obviously, first appearances are king. So you want to get Longshot number 1, Art Adams. I mean, iconic kind of cover really at this point. I've seen this thing so many times, but for a long time there, this was just in those cheap boxes, just stuck in there because nobody cared. Nobody cared about Longshot. Not to say that they're going to be like filling those cheap, but they're not anymore. I mean, people still have gravitated towards and scooped out a lot of first appearances over the years, but you never know what you might find. So this is just one of those cases where I just want you to be aware this book exists and it's out there in case you come across it, because there's plenty of these like 80s minis that you just go like, oh, what's in here? You can still find the Magic mini series, and we can maybe find this Longshot mini in here. You got first, Longshot here, and then issue 3 is the first Mojo. Both good books to keep an eye out for in case you find them in those cheap boxes. So this is something that could sell for as cheap as $6, as you can see here, or it can be as expensive as $65. Such a wide range. I know a lot of it has to do with condition, but also a lot of it just has to do with timing. This is just one of those oddball books that if somebody's looking for it, they may pay a premium for it. If no one's looking for it, it may go for pretty cheap, which is some of the evidence you can see here. Like those $6, $16, those were at auction. So you can see they might have gone under what they could potentially get with a $65 buy it now, if you're patient. I don't know. It's just one of those things. There's not a lot of, interest in the character yet, but who knows? Again, with a popular run here on this X-Men Legends series, maybe we start seeing, Longshot get more prominence again. Maybe he gets another mini or even an ongoing. Who knows? We'll see what happens after that. But even if you go shopping online, you can see $25, $30, $55. Not a cheap book. So if you do find it, you may have found yourself at least a book to flip. If you're not interested in all in Longshot and you think that the Mojoverse is stupid, hey, that's your prerogative. You can make that call for yourself too. So this is just something I just want you to be aware of that's out there in case you stumble across it. You see that big circle, that Art Adams cover, and you go, why do I know this book? I should buy this. I should buy this for cheap. So that's why I'm telling you about it. And that's going to take us to our last book, which we're going to we're going to actually jump over to Image this week and this time out, because this is probably your best case for this next bit of news. And this next bit of news is related to something I talked about on TAC yesterday with Marco, is that The Crow is getting rebooted. So we're getting a rebooted Crow movie starring Bill Skarsgård, who played It, played Pennywise on It. They even cast his girlfriend, I think it's not Kelly. What's her name? I can't remember. Anyway, these are going to follow Eric Draven, the original Crow characters, in this new movie. They're going to basically retell The Crow. I don't know if that means they're actually redoing like the movie, if they're actually going to be redoing the original James O'Barr story, or potentially maybe they might revamp it, rehash it, revise it, and do a newer version of it, like they did in 1999 when they redid The Crow in this series here over at Image. They basically kind of retold that original story again with another writer, another artist. They just kind of redid it. So maybe that's kind of the remix that we get as well on the movie. So this is the kind of book I think you might be able to find in the cheap box. You're not going to find the Crow number 1 in a dollar box or Caliber Present. Like that's not something you're going to find. So if you're looking for something to get connected to this new movie, this is like an option I think that might be there for you. And this is a gorgeous cover too, by the way. In addition to the McFarlane, I think it's the B cover. It's a variant cover for it. This thing is awesome, but this is actually pretty expensive. So you're probably not going to find the McFarlane in a box. I mean, if you do, I mean, absolutely buy it. But the cover A is probably your better bet of what you might find. But just be aware of this one too, because this one does all right. I did buy one of these on the aftermarket myself, maybe a year or two ago. I got it for a decent price, so that's why I got it. Because yeah, it is a McFarlane Crow, kind of like it. But that all said, what does this cover of the Crow usually do? It's like $5-6, like online, and you can see that McFarlane sold for 60, which is actually kind of cheap considering the asking prices, which could be $5 to $10 on that cover A, and then you can see $100 on that McFarlane. Is kind of the range that we're talking about with this one. So again, look for it for $1, $2, whatever the cheap boxes are near you. Look for that Image Crow. It's I think it's 10 issues, the whole run. And like I said, it kind of retells the original Crow story a little bit, and then it kind of gives you a little bit more carrying forward with Eric Draven and I don't know if her name is Kelly or not. I always keep forgetting her name, but that's what you're getting in this, and that's the character you're going to be doing. But we don't know exactly the story we're going to get in the new movie. So maybe they branch off and give us a little bit more. And maybe it's going to be based off stuff like this. I don't know. It's possible. But this is just a fun little book that you can keep an eye out for, just in case, like I said, you want to find some Crow books and you want to find something to read, something to just hang on to for when that movie comes around. This is an option for you. So hopefully you like that, and hopefully you like this list this week. Again, these are just the things that are popping in my head as I'm going out there flipping through the boxes. I plan to go out again tomorrow to go see if I can find anything, and just see what happens. So these are the books that I'm looking for. So I figured I'd share them with you guys too, if you were interested, and just give you some of the pricing and some of the history, some of the first appearances and things, and some options for you to go and look for when you're out there hunting and shopping. So thanks again for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you're enjoying the channel. Hopefully you're enjoying everything here on the channel. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Do all the likes and the subscribes and the alert buttons, telling your friends so we can keep growing the channel. But, hit me up in the comments, hit me up on Instagram, and start a conversation. We can start talking some books. And if you have any good finds and books that you found for $1, share, tag me on Instagram. I'd love to see what you guys have scored out there in those boxes, because I've scored plenty of books that had no business being in a $1 box over the years. But I don't want to keep listing it, because then it's just kind of like a brag fest. Like I want to say, oh, look, I found this Lost 23 in a $1 box, which I did. Or I found this Campbell Black Widow, the Kiss or Kill #6, which I did. These are things that happen, but that's probably not going to be the norm for most of us. So that's why I'm trying to give some options of things that might be out there, that more realistic options when you're flipping through the boxes and digging. So hopefully you like that kind of take and you still like this series. I mean, I've been doing it a while now. I'm still enjoying doing this. So with that all said, again, thank you. Appreciate you all. And I will see you guys soon with some more content. Later.